Okay. Hey, everybody. It's 10 o'clock, so we are Eastern time. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I wanted to welcome you. Thank you for joining, whether you're joining live or watching this on the playback. I'm Lori Pickens. I'm in West Virginia. I'm a Click Pro ambassador and Click Pro elite, and also a Click community mentor. Um, I've been officially in business for photography for the last 13 years. So we're just here to talk about the ins and outs of becoming a Click Pro Elite and some of the things about your score and your set and just all the tips that I kind of learned over the years of helping people navigate that kind of journey. So we're going to dive right in. Okay, so there is a course, Becoming Click Pro. And this is some of the stuff, the highlights from it. I want to make sure that you guys get value out of today and it's not, it doesn't feel like a sales pitch. So if there's any questions at the end, please let me know. Over here. Okay, so these are the 6 main topics that we're going to talk about in this webinar. When to start, can I include old images, new images? How should I host my set? How do I organize it? If I want help with a portfolio review and prep groups, and where can I find those kind of things? And then also ways that you can improve your score and really diving into the rubric. If you haven't seen the rubric, it is available on the Click Pro site. And it's pretty in depth and will tell you exactly what you need to get each score and things like that. It's very transparent and perfect. If you want to dive into knowing the ins and outs of why certain people score certain things and things like that. So, okay, first question. When should I start collecting images for my Click Pro set? And again, this one is easy. The answer is now. There's no time better than the beginning. I don't care if you bought your camera yesterday. If you come across an image and you're really proud of it and you feel like it has potential, into the waiting room. Sorry, guys, I'm gonna make sure everybody gets in. Hey guys, okay, I figured out how to admit people to to the to the Zoom call. So we're going to get back to where we were. What's that? Okay, so first question: when should I start collecting images? And the answer is now. If you have images that you're proud of and that you feel have potential, go ahead and just create a folder on your desktop and add them there. There's nothing that stops you from doing so, and it's just good to see your work grow. So even if you throw out all 50 of those first images that you added there, you're going to see the growth and the potential there. And it's just a nice habit to get into, to start picking your favorite work and to identify what you feel are your strengths. So put them together. Start that folder now. Okay. Is it okay to use old images, or should I search fresh for my Click Pro? There are no rules against what you can and can't put into your set. That's one of my favorite things about Click Pro is there's no, you have to be this genre, you have to fix this cookie cutter set of things to do. So if you have images from a decade ago that still fit the Click Pro standards, add them. I included these. So these were 3 images actually in my official Click Pro set from oh goodness, I was pregnant with Hayden, so I was accepted in 2016 maybe. And these 3 images were in my set, and I'd be happy to include those still today. You know, they have depth and layers and use of lines and framing. So again, it really kind of just depends on what your images are and whether or not you feel that they meet ClickPro standards. And in case anyone else wants to feel really old like I do, this little cutie turned 11 yesterday, along with his twin brother. So that shows you how old these images are. But again, I will say that this image probably depends on you and where you are in your artistic journey, because you know, if you've grown a lot, maybe you learn to shoot manual, maybe you developed a new editing style. You know, you used to be dark and moody and now you're clean color and things like that. So if the images from a decade ago do not match your artistic voice from today, then I would say you either need to rework them. You know, if the exposure was good and you can still make them match what your voice is today, then add them. And I always note that this is the same for my black and white images. I had gotten to the point where I was re-editing because you know, I worked on my set for a long time, probably a year and a half maybe. And my black and white style just kind of changed as far as the contrast level I liked and how much brown versus true black kind of thing that I liked. And I finally got to the point where I had a separate folder that said, these images in my set are going to end up being black and white. I knew that. I knew they had a strong contrast, they had dramatic light, or the color schemes that were in them, I just knew was going to transfer better in black and white, come across better. So I basically put them in a folder, and when I was ready to submit, I actually re-edited those with one preset, because that's part of cohesion, is you want your black and whites to be consistent. You don't want some of them to be super matte, because that's what meets the vibe of the picture, and then something else be super contrasty. So consistency is key. So put them in a folder. I keep all my raw images. I'm a data backup kind of person. But if they are that, just make sure that you have those options to go back to if you decide that you want to use earlier work. Okay, platform to host. Again, this is totally up to you and it is flexible. My answer used to be Flickr, because I like how easy it is in their album organizer to like visually swap things around. I think I have a picture. Yeah, so this is my QuickSoap set. No, this is not. This is just 54 but you can kind of see, you can just drag and drop pictures. Obviously I kind of went from light to dark and grouped by color, like this is my blue section or my yellow section. It's super easy to drag and drop, where I know with some other things you have to basically rename them, or it's just harder to keep them in an order. But again, it's totally, if you use ShootProof, if you use Pixieset, if you use PicTime, any of your gallery softwares that you're comfortable working with, that you can control the order, is totally acceptable. Some people even just use like a Dropbox folder or a Google Drive and then just name them 1 through 50 so that they can control them. Oh, I did want to say, the most important thing as far as if you're getting feedback on your set is to make sure that whatever platform that you use displays the name of the file. So if you're in a set and the person's great, this is obviously PicTime. This is just a client gallery. If you're in PicTime or in your client gallery, and you know the person who's reviewing your set wants to say, oh, you know, this image has blown highlights on the thing, you're going to get better feedback if they can say Newborn Brooklyn 14 has blown highlights. Where if it doesn't display those names, you know, they're going to have to say, oh, it's the third image that has a, you know, if you have very similar images, it can be harder to get detailed feedback. So whether you're accepted or not, that feedback that you get is priceless, you know, as far as learning and growing, even if it's compliments of, you want to know which image they're talking about. So as long as they have that, where the person reviewing can reference or link to a specific image, you should be good to go. When should I start organizing? I used to recommend having 100 images, because again, you have to have 150. And you just don't want to spend all of your time reworking and reworking. Like, you're going to be better off to shoot and grow and just collect them all there. Once you have 100, if that's something that you want to start doing, like kind of visually deciding how organization makes sense to you, then you can do that. Again, I don't know how many times I would add up to 170 images and then call back to 140. So it's kind of just a process of learning and watching yourself grow, but don't overthink the order until you're pretty close to ready to apply. Okay, when should you join a ClickPro prep group? This one is my same answer as my other one. It's now. Like, even if you do nothing but listen or read or see the feedback on other people's images, go ahead and join one. Find one that feels like a good fit for you. That's a platform that you like. So we have some, shouldn't say we, ClickPro has some on Facebook. There's a big Facebook group that you can join, and then as there's openings in the specific groups, Courtney will add people or find. So those are volunteer led by other ClickPros. So basically 2-3 ClickPros will agree to volunteer their time to review sets and answer questions. And then you can also answer each other's questions. You know, you can learn. I also host one on the forum. Obviously, being a Click community mentor, that's where I spend a lot of my time these days. So we have one there, but I tell you, the ladies there are amazing. I love when they start their comments with, I think Lori would say, and they've literally seen me say the same feedback enough times that they know what they should be doing, and they know what to tell other people. So don't disvalue that you can get comments and feedback from other people as they grow too, even if you're not getting that from a specific ClickPro or a mentor that you recognize. So if anybody needs help finding one of those after this, feel free to let me know, and I can get links to both of those options. Yeah, prep groups are amazing. Like, I was very lucky when I was putting together my set to be put in a ClickPro set with some amazing leaders and connections that I made that I still am good friends with today, and just people who I've seen go in their journey, but at the point that they were willing to give back and help me when I was, this far back from where they were. And I always joke that I've never seen the amount of growth in my art as I did when I was doing my ClickPro set, because eventually you get to the point where you're comfortable and you're not critiquing your images. You're not like, how could I have made this better? How could I have this? And at that point I was all the time. It was like, wonder if I could have this. And you get excited when you get that, when you achieve that look or light that you were looking for, and you just notice things. So Click groups can be a really good sense of inspiration, of community, all the good things. So find one that you love. Make photo besties. They're the best to have. When should you get a portfolio review? This really kind of depends on you too. I always tell people, when I do ClickPro portfolio reviews, you don't have to come to me with exactly 150 images. If you have 130 and you want to know where you should work at, what else you should add, what else you should be shooting, maybe your strengths and weaknesses at the time, that's fine. If you have 170 and you want help saying, which of these do I need to cut? I'm happy to help with that too. And again, the portfolio groups can be great with that. I usually try and tell people in the forum one, it's easier if you post 2 or 3 images at a time to get really detailed feedback, because if you post just your link once a year with 150 images, that's a lot for a person to have to go through and critique each individual thing. But you don't want to be so far along and then have someone tell you, your skin tones are all too magenta, and then you now have 150 images that you have to fix. So there's kind of that happy medium of, I think I'm ready to grow, I think I'm getting closer. I know with my portfolio reviews, like, I'm happy to do some back and forth. It's not like you send it to me, I'm going to review it, give you a document of comments, and then wash my hands of you. Like, you're allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to send things back like, hey, I re-edited this. Does this look better? Am I on the right track? So just find a mentor, person that's reviewing your set that's willing to do that you trust their opinion. and that you can actually feel like you're growing from. Okay, so the standards. If you have not seen the standards, they are on the ClickPro set. I will link to them in the follow-up reply of this, because again, they're very detailed of 1 through 6. So there's 7 categories and you get a score of 1 through 6. And you have to score at least a 32 to be accepted. So we're going to go through each of them. The first one is exposure. So obviously this is your the exposure on your image, on your subject. I'm talking mostly the 4 through 6 range. Obviously there are scores of 1 and 2. They're more beginning. I'm assuming most of you, if you're taking this serious enough to join a webinar or a prep group and things like that, you've been given enough advice that you're probably not going to get a 1 in exposure. I'm sure there are people, and maybe they get that score and they take the feedback and grow. But we're basically going to look 3 through 6, which are people who have a pretty good standard of, there's going to be a lot of photographers who score 3s and 4s that are good photographers, but maybe their set at the time just doesn't fit certain qualities of the rubric. So ways to get blown highlights. These are issues that a lot of people will cause people to get a 4 instead of a 5 in exposure. If you have blown highlights, if you have clipped wax, if you're using challenging light, like there's backlight and there's just too much haze, or there's flare and it's in the wrong place, kind of thing. And again, blown highlights and clipped wax is one of those that I see a lot in sets that I review, and it doesn't just mean that your blinkies aren't on. They're like, my blinkies weren't on, it was fine. Actually, 255 is what is considered blown, like completely. There's no detail there ever. That's what makes your blinkies blown. If you're above 240, there are some printers that certain colors will actually be out of gamut and will look blown, even if technically they're not at 255. Same with clipped wax. It's one of those things that, if you have a window that's on the side and that window is blown, it's not as big a deal as if the highlights on her hair, her skin, or the subject is. But if your wax are clipped to the point that you're losing detail, if it's a person with dark hair and a dark background, and you can't tell where the hair starts and the background stops, that's why it's a problem. Clip wax is definitely one that people come to me and say, like, I like black blacks. I like just really dark blacks. That's great. But for ClickPro, we need to know that you know right from wrong, that you know what the limit is. Now, once you're a ClickPro, I have several ClickPro friends that, most of their images have clip wax because they like that and that's their style. But in terms of correct exposure, you need to be able to show that you can alleviate that. And we do have videos in the ClickPro course, my ClickPro course, that show you how to check for clip wax and blown highlights, and also how to fix them. There's also some great free tutorials on the ClickCommunity forum that show those things. So if you need help with either of those, please let me know and I can get you some links afterwards. Again, to get a 5, your exposure must be excellent on virtually every image, including those made in challenging light. Backlight, side light, mixed light is a big one. A score of 6 when exposure is excellent lighting on all lighting conditions. In addition, aperture, shutter speed, and or ISO are used for artistic effect. So not only is your exposure right, but you're using it in an artistic and creative way. Your exposure becomes a part of the narrative and contributes to the story of the image. Okay, use of light. So exposure is your, histogram correct and things like that? Is your light on your subject correct? Use of light is taking that to a little bit more of a creative level. Light will be judged on its own for purposes of evaluation and does in fact influence the other categories. So some of the things that will bring down your score, the one I see most often is flat light. If you have flat light in your set, technically that is a 4. Now, do I like flat light? And do I take pictures just in everyday life in flat light? Sure, I do. If I have a extended family session of 20 people, I'm gonna find myself some open shade. I'm gonna put them in a tree where they have big open sky and they have nice hedge lights. But in terms of showcasing your art and your style for a Clip Pro set, flat light, it's not harder to do. It's not showing an advanced level of using light in a creative way. Same with wedding parties, like I have a bunch of wedding parties that I know are going to be all over the park. I'm going to find some nice flat light because that's what people care about, is being able to see everybody. Is everybody lit the same? Same with front light. It can be a perfectly flattering light, but in terms of your use of light score, it's something you want to avoid. Most importantly, does your subject have catch lights in their eyes? Is there a variety of light? So if your set is 90% backlight, I remember when I did my set, I did a portfolio review actually with Courtney way back, but she's like, you have enough backlight, like just stop. Because at the time, that's what I loved. I love room light, I love hair light, and I was just shooting all the time because I knew how to do it. But there are other things, there's dramatic slide light, there's Rembrandt light. And if these are terms that you aren't familiar with, again, we talk about in the course different ways to do those things, a silhouette, just all sorts of things. And then, again, there's great free tutorials on the Clip Community forum too. So both great places to check out if you need to advance your use of light score. The other one I see a lot of is reflected light. You can see a little bit of it here. I've probably taken out some of it, but like if the person has a neon color, or if they're standing by a orange wall or a blue wall, and that color is showing up on their skin tones. Or a lot of times people who are deep in grass and woods and things like that will have some like green light, if that makes sense, reflected in their midtones, because that's the light that's reflecting back on them, and you see that in the skin tones. So those are all things that could bring you your score from a 5 to a 4. And again, if 90% of your set is good light, great light even, and then you have 10 images, 2 images for that matter, that are just, it'll bring down your use of light score, or it could. To achieve a 5 requires a combination of both technical and creative skills. Your images must have contrast and depth, and your subjects are consistently well lit. So this is definitely one that I see with people who use backlight, but maybe they don't know how to properly edit or use off-camera flash to light the subject. And light should also contribute to the story or mood of the author. So obviously, he's feeling the light here and the rays that come in. Okay, color and white balance. This is the next set, our score in the rubric. As you examine your set with color and white balance in mind, be sure to consider other elements that may be affecting your score. Often color and white balance are impacted both negatively and positively by processing decisions. If you notice these, take a look at the processing choices and see if this is where the problem lies. Sometimes it's in anything. Sometimes you've corrected something and it's added too much magenta to the skin. These, at least, are the good news, are the ones that are fixable in post. If you learn how to edit for skin tones. Again, ways that you're going to get a 4 instead of a 5. So I talk especially about the difference in a 4 and 5, because if you get a 4 in every category, that's going to give you a 28, which is not going to score you. If you get a 5 in every category, then you're going to get a 35. So to get a 32, most people end up with mostly 5s, maybe 1 or 2 4s. In my set, I actually had a 34, and I had a 4 in white balance because of the time, and I still struggle with skin tones. It's just not I I feel like I'm better now than I was then, a decade or 7 years ago, but it's still something that I have to pay attention to. If skin tones are an issue for you, I cannot recommend the ClickPro course Flawless enough. I will also add a link to it, but it's by the numbers what your skin tone should be for depending on authenticity, or if you're olive undertones and things like that. It's by the book numbers. And when I say numbers, I'm just saying like an eyedropper, and it's going to show you the RGB values and what they should be and how to make adjustments that way. Absolutely the best course. There are other free tutorials on the Click Pro forum or Click Community forum also that are good for skin tones. This is a hard one for people because people tend to go warm, or they tend to go too cool, or they like muted greens, and then it throws off everything else. So it's kind of that balance of, and skin tones are important, especially if maybe you have a mixed race couple that one person's going to be darker and one person may be lighter. You need to be able to show that you can accommodate all of that in your Click Pro set. So choose 5. Skin tones should be accurate most of the time. Their inconsistencies, they should not distract or detract from the integrity of the image. Color and white balance is accurate the majority of the time, and any mixed light is reflected, or reflected color is managed well. So this is that reflected light that I told you, that if this had a real strong red tone underneath of it, a lot of times you see in here too, like if the person's shirt is reflecting on them, mixed light. So let's say you're taking a person a picture with by the window, there's a lamp in the background, and that's not mixed well, or balanced well, or overhead lights can give some weird color tones, things like that. So again, it's just kind of balancing all that and learning to edit and or shoot with light that accommodates those things. Okay. Composition. When some categories require you to pay attention to the camera settings, this category requires you to pay attention to everything in the frame. Every detail in a well-composed image is intentional, from where you place the light, where you place your subject, and everything in the frame. Every time you should be looking at your images in your set, look at the edges. Is there anything coming in? Nothing drives me more crazy is if you have like a thing and there's just one little jut in here of something that would be easily removed. But I have frame OCD. I'm easily distracted by things, but definitely check the 4 corners of your frame. Nothing is accidentally cut out or included. How you pose your subjects is important. Not only must be flattering to your subject, but they should look comfortable and relaxed. So again, this is where you're going to use scores if you've chopped hands, if you've cropped at ankles, at knees, any of the things. If a lot of family photographers, the moms, whatever, and it like crops with their hand. Again, like I still do that as a Click Pro. Like I have sessions where the kids running around, whatever. And maybe it's not perfect, and the mom loves the image. Maybe I still deliver the image in fine color, but it doesn't mean it goes in my Click Pro set. That's where you have to decide, what? This image has great light, it has great emotion, but I missed the composition. Like I knew better, and the situation just didn't work. So the highest category in this high score in this category is awarded when the maker demonstrates the powerful use of design elements and compositional devices, outstanding balance within the frame. So really going to that next level is when you start using shapes, when you start using lines, when you start using framing, if you have leading lines, all kinds of composition things and techniques that you can use to raise the visual impact of your image. So there's lots of tutorials. I know I've been adding some to the Click Pro course, and also tutorials in the forum on ways to use triangles, ways to use lines, ways to framing, just all of those things that as you start to see them, as you start to notice them when you're shooting, you'll get better at adding them to your set and watching for them. It can even just be the tiniest, if I had been lower and this line went through her head, it would have a totally different impact than her in this frame. Same thing with horizon lines. If your horizon line goes through your subject's head, you're going to lose points on composition. Okay, processing and cohesion. Whether your image is perfect in camera or not, or using post-processing, you choose to finish your image is very important final step in making the image process. Sometimes presets can be one good thing and you're great to go. Some things need extra cleanup. Sometimes an image is worth that extra time and effort. One of the marks of ClickPro is the ability to use editing software, including presets or Lightroom tools and things like that as a way to strengthen your image and define the outcome of the image. When your set is filled with flawless, remarkable images, overall style is well done, you will see an exceptional score in these sets. The process is well done and it's almost not noticeable to the viewer. This is the big thing with processing and cohesion. I think even the rubric says something like nothing is overdone. You know, there's a lot of people who then they start out, they're like, I can sharpen these eyes. I can whiten the white part of their eye, and they just go too far. You know, I think most of us probably, you know, when you learn that saturation slider in the beginning, you're like, this is pops, you know. So you just really want nothing to feel overdone. And just that you're cohesive. A lot of beginning photographers will, you know, this image feels dark and moody to me, and this one feels light and airy. And they're still developing their voice. They're still developing their editing style, and they use different presets for different things and things like that. Or they use one preset on everything, and it doesn't look right. So there's really just that balance, and it's more of a maturity that comes with you and your editing style. So, and a lot of this I will say too. Oh, okay. Will come with time and will come with as you grow as an artist. Technical basics. This one is mostly things in focus. A lot of beginning photographers, or if they don't know how to adjust aperture and things like that, they'll have too much stuff in focus, or they're taking a picture of a person and only one eye is in focus when really both of them should be, or it's a baby and their shutter speed was too slow and like the person's arm. So again, like these cars are out of focus, but it's clearly done with intention. So everything with ClickPro are the choices you made intentional? Did you decide to expose the person that way because it made more of an impact? So again, a 4 would be if you haven't used a high enough aperture to keep a depth of field is insufficient to keep detail in focus. So again, if their hand is out of focus, or if they're doing something with their hands that you got focus on the eyelashes, but clearly their hands are part of that story, they both need to be in focus. Maybe you needed to bump up your aperture. Or if your aperture isn't low enough to isolate your subject, you know, everything is in focus when you really want it to be this person standing in the field. And again, the way that you go up in your score is to use defocus, I guess, in your images to creatively as part of your story. You know, that's kind of what's going on here. So creativity and intention. Again, this is just showing that your voice and your artistic style is coming through, that you've used creative. Not only do you know how technically to expose an image, to frame an image, but you're using that to make a visual impact. You know the story you want to tell, but your viewer doesn't. And using different you can communicate your vision effectively. The highest scores reserved for those whose style is distinct, identifiably as belonging to the photographer. If you've seen a Meg Luke's picture and you put your kid in a lace curtain in front of a window. Maybe you can do it really well, but it doesn't come across as your voice. I use Meg because we all are obsessed with Meg. But there is a difference between imitating an artist or being inspired by an artist. And you want to get to the point where you use inspiration. You know, we're all inspired by different people and different sources and things that have been done before. But how are you taking that and putting your own spin on it? Images elicit an emotional response, inspire or captivate the viewer. Okay, I know that was a lot. Do you guys have any questions? I guess I should say, so the Click Pro course goes through a lot of this. I'm slowly adding tutorials and things like that, videos to it, as people are like, hey, I'm struggling with how to get a good silhouette for my thing, or I'm not able to expose this way. What are good challenges or techniques that I could practice? That's the other thing that I usually tell people is go through and see what use of light you have. What are you missing? Are all of your compositions rule of thirds? Like, what other composition things could you look to add? And spend a week doing that. Spend a week searching out leading lines and just shoot that and see which ones you want to add. And of course, we do a few like full portfolio reviews where I've actually reviewed a person's set as they were working on it and videoed it, so you kind of hear my feedback. But yeah, if not, come check out the prep group, or reach out to me if there are any questions, if there's a specific tutorial that you have that you want to ask about, or that you'd like to see. If you're like, I'm really struggling with how to check these blown highlights. How do I fix this? How do I do this? How do I extend the frame so that my composition is better? Any of those things, I'm here and happy to help. Does anybody have any questions? I didn't even bring up the chat, did I? If not, I so appreciate you all being here or watching it back on replay. And I'm here, I'm just a DM away, or send me an email if you have any questions about the course, about a portfolio review. I do also mentoring sessions if you just want an hour of my time, like maybe you're not ready to do a set, if you're to send me a set link, but you just want to pick my brain for an hour. We offer that. I am on the forum all over the place, and more than happy to make any videos or tutorials to share over there. So I thank you.
I have a question, Lori.
Sure, go ahead.
Can you explain your course? Because I've seen stuff, but I'm not sure I understand how it works.
Okay, so it's basically a lot of this thing, but obviously more in depth. So like as far as organizing your set, there's like 10 different examples of, you know, this person organized by color, and it's like actual examples of, you know, this person shoots macro and something else, and this is how they organize. So it's just more examples, more in depth. There's the actual portfolio reviews, and then we've been adding tutorials, you know, like a slow shutter speed tutorial, and then steps to take to practice that, or how to do a silhouette. Just the different kind of things that you want to be able to know how to do to add to your set. So
are you in it with a group, or how does it work?
So it's just an online self-paced course. It's in Teachable, so you just kind of go through at your own speed. And then you have me to ask questions too if you have. It's not kind of like a self-paced course through Click Photo School, where, you know, there's a 2-week period where it's live. It's just evergreen at this point. I think we are going to do kind of a open closed doors where I make sure that I'm available to new people who come in for, you know, that next month as they go through it and they have questions. But yeah, I'm always here. So it's more of a self-paced. If you're looking for a community to do, I would find a prep group. I would either join the one on the forum or find one of the Facebook groups if you're wanting people to work through your set at the same time. I'm looking over here, but you're up there.
So the course is like this, but more in detail with tutorials and examples.
Yes. Yeah. It starts with all this other stuff, and then kind of all of these things that I mentioned of, okay, this is how you go from a 4 to a 5. I'm adding tutorials of, okay, this is how you find that and add that to your set. You know, if you're struggling with side light, these are the things that you can do, kind of thing. So
Mhm. So one thing I have a question about, and I think I got this from, I took the class Courtney did on rules years ago.
yeah, it's a
And
good
it was one of the best,
yes.
one of the best I've ever been in. She just gave so much, but kind of discouraging to me was it felt like you needed to have almost a genre or several very consistent genres of things that you shoot, because you couldn't have just, you know, a few images of one kind of thing. Am I hearing that right?
No, you can have, so in my set, I had lots of client work, but I also had a lot of images like this that were clearly just my kid at home every day, whatever. I've seen images that have half their set is macro and half of their set is wedding. You know, like that's what I love about Click Pro is there's no, it has to be this. And that's really where a lot of the organization can make your set cohesive. Like even if you're shooting flowers and you're shooting documentary, you can make those we describe in the course, and Courtney always talks about it this way too, like make your set a game of telephone where every image talks. So message at the beginning and the message at the end may be different, but there's some connection between the two, whether that's a color or a an object, the use of light, you know, and things like that. So like I know in mine, when I went from like a wedding set to children and family, maybe I ended the wedding with like a flower girl. So it kind of still made sense that I went from this cute little girl in a dress to this cute little girl in a dress, although this one was wedding and this one's family lifestyle kind of session. So there's still something that if you look at it as a whole, it feels okay.
Okay.
May get bumped out. I haven't used Zoom in a while and it limits you on what you do here. So if you have questions afterwards, feel free to DM me or send me an email and we can continue talking there because I love the set. Again, I feel like I grew so much